Thank you, Mayuri. We've seen the process quite in detail when Joe presented on RWB. Growing Green Cover Solutions, which is our second solution in our portfolio, will take a sneak peek as to what exactly is the current status. We're in the process of codifying it, what is the approach we are taking, and we'll take a look at some of the work by multiple partners who are working in this field. So we've seen this spectrum of solutions, growing green cover. Currently, we will look at 4 approaches or 4 models. The first one being 1 acre food forests by Raah Foundation. And these are the linked communities, so we've linked the communities as well. So 1 acre food forest engages with farmer communities. The Miyawaki approach by EcoSattva engages with Gram Panchayat, schools, campuses. The plantation solutions by Caring Friends engages with the armed forces, women SHGs and farmers. And solution 4, which we'll take a look, is an agroforestry approach by Farmers for Forests that engages with marginal farmers. Now, why green cover solutions? So just to highlight here, we understand that it's a long-term solution, or the impacts of growing green cover will be long-term and not in the immediate sort of nature. But we do understand that these will help in building ecosystem resilience and also creating local water security. So that's the reason we like to highlight this solution. Coming to the first approach that is being adopted by Raah Foundation, Girish ji would like to speak on this. So Girish ji. So we'll carry on. Girish ji can always add to this. So the approach by Raah Foundation is a 1 acre food forest and a typical mix of a majority of food bearing trees plus forest and medicinal trees. A typical 1 acre food forest has around 140 to 145 trees. Here you can see the image of one of those food forests that is just in its infancy. And this is the visualization of the work done till now by Raah Foundation with regards to 1 acre food forest. This is mapped around the Palghar Collective Action Circle. Let's focus on the value that's being created from the 5th year onwards, or after the completion of 5 years. 60,000 per annum per acre is the economic value that's being created. And if we look at a much longer perspective, from the 10th year onwards, the potential goes to 150,000 per annum per acre. And the benefits last multiple generations. So multiple generations can gain the economic value of it. And from a donor perspective, it takes around 50,000 per acre to create this food forest. So that's a sneak peek. Maybe Girish ji, if you want to add to this. Please do. There's a mic.
So this.
So you can speak from your page.
So hello everyone. This program has actually evolved over the years. We've also refined and kept improving on all of this. Initially, what we were doing was helping farmers. The Palghar, the situation is that you have undulating land. So traditional farming is not possible to the extent that you would want to do it. And then we realized that how this program is actually beautifully integrating 2 things. One is it provides long-term income, and I'll come to that in a minute, for the farmer. But also it has a strong ecological footprint in terms of soil conservation, in terms of slowing down water flows, and therefore ability to add water, recharge groundwater, and also overall improving ecological diversity and so on. So that's how the program evolved over the years, and now we have integrated into that things like farm ponds and water sources and so on. So what happens is that just in 4 or 5 years, you have trees giving fruits, and you really need to have water only for the first 4 or 5 years in a big way, because once the roots go into the ground and they penetrate, then water footprint goes down significantly, and you really require water only at the fruiting stage. So that's how the program evolved, and you've seen the numbers. We are of course the plants which we have helped plant are just about 4 or 5 years old, but we have seen some other people who have planted small isolated fruit trees over the years, 15 years and so on. They earn very significant income. So to reiterate, we think it's a great combination of an ecological footprint as a stack, as what she was saying, one of the solutions, and of course farmer income security. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the second one, that's the Miyawaki approach adopted by EcoSattva. I'm pretty sure everyone's familiar with Miyawaki. It's a dense plantation, and it's a proven method for rapidly establishing dense biodiverse forests. You can see the typical mix that is highlighted here. It's a mix of trees, and the adopted approach by EcoSattva is a typical Miyawaki spans 2,000 square feet. This is the visualization of the work EcoSattva has done. It's some of it, there's a lot more to it. And particularly with their focus on the Kham River, which you can see in the center of the circle. This is the Sambhajinagar Collective Action Circle. From a donor perspective, it's 1 lakh who make this Miyawaki. And in terms of the value created, each Miyawaki forest over 2,000 square feet has the capacity or the potential to sequester 120 tons of carbon over 20 years. I'd request Dr. Manjot to maybe share a bit more. If Dr. Manjot, you can please.
Sure. Quick caveat here is that I'm a physician. I've just recently moved as a director to the organization. So a lot of my knowledge may not be super technical. Our technical lead is on her way, maybe literally a few minutes away. She just caught in traffic. I think the other thing to add here is the fact that we've done a lot of work in river restoration as well. So the Miyawaki is what we started with at EcoSattva, building forests near schools, near the cantonment board, and eventually the community engagement showed us that the bigger challenge in this space was the Kham River, which was a seasonal river, dry, polluted, and extremely neglected. And so we kind of pivoted from being an afforestation and solid waste management company to being a river restoration organization also. So the last couple of years, a lot of the river rejuvenation has been part of the work that we've done, which has meant doing the GIS mapping of the river boundaries, understanding what the boundaries look like on the ground, doing some pitching, and then planting forests near it. So the river itself is about 55 kilometers until it's beginning to the point it reaches the Godavari basin. And the 15 kilometers that passes through Aurangabad, which is now the Chhatrapati Shivaji Sambhajinagar city, that is the area that we've worked on. So we've cleaned the river up, we've done some pitching, and we've planted forests in the neighborhood. And it's the remaining that we're looking for partners for. So the rest of the river, from the point it leaves Aurangabad city and goes to Godavari, it'll be great to find some partners there and start doing some work there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manjot.
Next shoes.
No. Mary, you want to add some more thoughts to it? At all?
I got the questions. So
Not just the question, just the context of the harm and what you're trying to do.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so we're working on the Kham River and now the Kham River Basin and now the entire district. And the idea was that rivers and seasonal rivers are ubiquitous. They cover the entire district. If I had a map to show you, it would, you'd have little rivulets covering the entire district area. And so I think the context we've been called here to speak about is Miyawaki forests. But Miyawaki forests, we don't even use the Miyawaki method anymore. We use our own method called the labyrinth method. It has the benefits of the Miyawaki but not the pitfalls, and we use it only in specific places. The way we use it for rivers is, or even generally, is to create seed forests. So we don't plant up an entire area. We just create small pockets like seed forests where we can plant the relevant native species that grow well and grow fast and mature fast so that they can disperse seeds and then aid regeneration. So that's the only way we use Miyawaki. But with river restoration, we look at it from a larger perspective, right? So we look at how do we prevent the pollution from coming in, the sewage, the effluents, the solid waste. That is the complex part of river restoration which we work on as one piece that's moving. Then we work on the boundaries, the governance around rivers. So where are the boundaries of our rivers? What are, is the red line, blue line, who governs it? Does it come under the irrigation department, the corporation, the Zilla Parishad, the forest? There's all this complication on whose land it is, what are the boundaries, how to protect the river if you don't know where the river is or what the extent is. So we work on that aspect. For example, with the Kham River, for the first time, the red line and blue line has been included in the city development plan. Up until now it wasn't. And so now you can see where the encroachment is, or where the areas are on the floodplains, and you can also, so you can warn them that you're in the floodplain area, and you can also see which areas can be protected from further encroachment, which is our approach. That we don't want to touch the encroachment that's happened already. We want to focus on how to prevent the river from being encroached going forward. So when we look at rivers, we really look at them holistically, and we let the river teach us and show us what needs to be done. So whether it's sewage and waste management, whether it's boundary and governance, whether it's then riparian zone restoration, which has multiple things. Right? Miyawaki is not even a method that we actually use. Like I said, the only way we use it is as a seed forest. And I use this term from actually, we were the finalists, the 3 finalists at the St. Andrews Prize for the Environment, and one of them was, it was called Scotland, the Big Picture. And they use same thing, Miyawakis in small locations along the Scotland Highlands to create these seed forests, and so now I use that term, but that is basically the method that we use Miyawaki for. Otherwise, it's riparian zone restoration, and we also, through our surveying, we have of course on-ground surveying, but also some orthophoto drone surveying. We can identify which areas need invasives to be removed, which areas can actually be created into recreational spaces for people to interact with the river, which is absolutely essential if we're going to talk about river restoration. It can't be some abstract thing that we're doing, just by ourselves as a scientific pursuit or environmental pursuit. It needs to be something that people embrace, and so for that reason, also creating biodiverse recreational spaces, especially within cities and populated areas, is also an opportunity that river restoration gives us. So we look at it from a multitude of aspects. And I don't know if I added to what needed to be said or yeah. And so I think what we discussed here was the Miyawakis. These are not, again, these are native dense forest plantations using the labyrinth method. We've trained teachers and headmasters in this method so that they can actually go and execute small projects in their schools. So most of the schools, Zilla Parishad schools, you'll see there'll be a building, there'll be a ground, and hardly any trees, if at all. Like generally it's a ground with no tree cover, no shade. So, and the teachers are very enthusiastic. They plant trees almost every monsoon, but then the next year again they're planting trees at the same spot, mostly. So this was a project that came up by the Zilla Parishad CEO, Pavneet Kaur. She said that, we keep telling them to plant trees every monsoon, we have a target, and every next monsoon we're planting at the same place, nothing survived. So, and we had done a public healthcare center green campus program for her through the Maharashtra State Innovation Society's prize award money. And so she said that this should happen across all schools so that students learn about native trees, what are native trees versus, exotics, invasives, etc. They learn what size saplings need to be planted, how to take care of them, what are the different kinds of soils, what goes into a soil. It's like a practical, experience and learning. So that's what we did. We trained headmasters, teachers in the methodology, and they went and executed in their schools, and we supported them, and we also gave them the funds. So they could buy the various input materials, or they could get it for free from the villagers and spend that money on other things also. So we were doing the monitoring, and the monitoring continues. And out of the 104 forests we planted in 2020, 2021, 100 of them have done exceedingly well. 4 have had problems because of some flooding and stuff like that. So, and the kids even celebrate the first birthday and the second birthday of the forest with a cake for all the other kids, and a cow dung cake for the plant, for the trees. So, So it's really the community, getting community involved, getting community to believe in this, to see the change happen in front of them, has been a core of the Green Schools mission. And that's like one part of the larger picture that we're into. We're looking at district level climate action anchored in rivers and seasonal rivers, specifically wetlands, and that encompasses the whole gamut of actions, from pollution prevention, green cover management, restoration, governance, and most importantly, monitoring and maintenance, for which we have an app and we have a digital way of monitoring, and we're looking forward to IIT-IIT assisting us in scaling that solution. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. In the interest of time, I'm just going to come to the next one. Nimesh ji, if you could just please step forward again. It'll be good if you share directly on the plantation solution that Caring Friends has. Yeah, so just introducing while Nimesh ji comes. So these are saplings that are sourced from women SHGs, and the plantations are nurtured through the armed forces and local communities. The key thing to highlight here would be the sourcing strategy and the implementing strategy. Nimesh ji, if you could just shed light on that.
Thank you, Harsh. This again, it just happened by chance that we were working on watershed, and there was an army colonel who saw our machines, and he came and requested our NGO that can we use your machine for a few days, because we are working on plantation and we need to provide for the watershed work. So I was very happy. Indian Army had, there was nothing to think second. He said, of course you can, but I said, we don't give anything for free. So diesel aapka, machine hamara. So the army guy agreed. He said, yeah, that we can manage. So that's how we started with the Indian Army in Aurangabad. And giving our machines to them, we first gave one, then we gave the second one. And with the help of the Indian Army, there is a unit of the Indian Army called Territorial Army. And there are only 9 battalions in the country. And one of them is in Aurangabad. So these are retired soldiers actually, but retired meaning they are just 35 because they retire very early, the soldiers. So they still got a lot of steam, and each battalion is over 110 soldiers. The full battalion is dedicated to plantation. And being the army, once the colonel says, if we have to plant 10,000 trees, come what may, the 10,000 trees have to stand. So that's how they work. So we just invested in the armed forces, and in Aurangabad, we helped them plant about 3 lakh trees in the Aurangabad forest, and with very minimum amount of money. So that's where the saplings issue came, where the forest department was giving them saplings free of cost, but the quality was not to the mark, and some of the species were missing in which the forest went. So we asked the women around to give, and this is the experiment we are doing again. In Jalna, we have given the target of 50,000 trees to a village, and all the women have promised. So this year in June, I'll get that 15,000 trees. Now, to compensate for the trees, we have to pay them. So the market price is around, say, 25 rupees per sapling, 1-year-old sapling. So we have to pay them minimum 25. So how to pay more? Because I want them to do this next year also. So what we did in Caring Friends is we have a bulk purchasing scheme which we did. Just to give an example, quick one, we bought 7,000 Samsung mobile phones for digital literacy for the women in MP. And in this 7,000 phones, we saved 1 crore 67 lakhs. Just, and I did not go out of my office also, I just negotiated with them. So this gave us a kick, and we do it with the notebooks now. So we get a 48% discount from Navneet directly. So now these women in Jalna, we are giving them the offer that either you get more in kind than the 25 rupees that you get in cash. So it depends on you what you want. So similarly, we are giving them the offer for tea, ration, of course, notebooks, and sanitary pads or water filter, whatever they want. So they will decide. Similarly, we are doing one with Farmers for Forest in Gadchiroli, where we are trying to do that with a village with 10,000 trees only. So we want to monetize trees. We are trying a tree shop, where I want to put in products which can be bought, but only by giving saplings, no money. You know, so we want to monetize trees. Actually, trees have lost its value because the government is giving it free of cost. So most of the forest department across the state is giving free of cost, and anything free has no value. That's why the survival rate is also very low. So when the government says we planted 1 crore saplings, they were planted, but how many survived? As Natasha said, that they are planting the trees in the same place every year. So what's the use, you know? So it is always easy, I always say that we count what is measurable. We don't measure what counts. So we have to be very careful in using the resources. So we are trying to invest again in the women power and trying to see, because women are very sincere. So wherever I have invested in the rural women, we had very rich dividends. So again, we are trying to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Nimeshji. Coming to the final solution, this is the agroforestry solution by Farmers for Forests, where they engage with small marginal farmers. This model includes around 350 trees per acre, and is a variety of trees that are part of the portfolio. So you have 2 main fruit tree species, and there's an intercropping done with the list of crops that you see, and it also includes a boundary plantation. So the benefits are enhancing biodiversity, sequestering carbon, and restoring degraded landscapes. I invite Kritika Ravishankar, co-founder Farmers for Forests, to talk more about this, which is the process that they're following, which is a robust tech-led process, is something that is interesting, and I hope Kritika can shed light on this. They're using drone technology to measure tree health, to measure the growth rate and the survival rate. And through this process, they've been able to ensure higher than a 75% survival rate on almost 80% of the plots that they've been working on. Additionally, they're also successful in creating value from the carbon markets, linking marginal farmers with the carbon market. So, Kritika, can you please?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here, the IIT-IIT team. So I'll talk a little bit about the work that Farmers for Forests does. So this model that we eventually ended up with was not what we started with. We started with a very different model where we were giving farmers everything for free, and we were doing many more wild trees than fruit trees. That model didn't really work well for us. We tried out a whole bunch of things, collaborated with researchers, and finally we came up with this agroforestry model where we also have farmers pay to be a part of the program. So just in the last financial year, we collected nearly 1.5 crores from farmers, and for us I feel like that's a testament of farmers really believing in the model. So we do, so farmers pay 15 to 20% of the cost. We have 350 fruit trees, 350 trees in total, which includes fruit trees, timber trees, as well as papaya, moringa. There's an intercrop as well. The way the model is designed is to keep in mind various income streams. So farmers can get the first income stream in the first 4 to 6 months, then from papaya, moringa in about a year, fruit trees in about 3 to 5 years, and then timber trees 10 to 15 years, which farmers often call like a pension scheme, or they cut one tree down when they need money for medical emergency or anything like that. I think the drone model, the image that you see, I think that was important for us because we realized that if this model has to scale in India, and the scalable market for this model could be 30% of India's arable land, that's 40 million hectares, at a cost of roughly $2,000 per hectare. That's $80 billion for this solution to scale across India, which is just simply money that philanthropy cannot pay for alone, right? So we had to come up with a model that included the markets, that included government, and included philanthropy playing a catalytic role. So that's where we sort of decided to leverage both carbon finance and government subsidies. So in order to do that well, measurability is very important. So when we had about 10,000 or so trees in our program, it was very easy to count all of it manually. Today we have over 1 million trees in the program, so it's literally become impossible to count everything manually, which is where we started using high resolution drone imagery and an open source AI model. So we essentially trained that model on 60,000 crowns from various parts of India, a little bit of data from Africa. So the model now works at over 80% accuracy for carbon sequestration and over 95% accuracy for tree detection. So essentially, even very, very small trees, like trees that are 3 to 4 feet in height, with the drone image and the algorithm, you can count every tree. So we're able to provide this data to carbon standards. We've been able to leverage carbon finance. We're now working very closely with the governments in both Maharashtra and Jharkhand to incorporate this into their carbon policy or agroforestry policy, so that you can have philanthropy, government, and the carbon markets essentially taking the program to scale. And finally, our entire tech stack is actually open source. So this year we started experimenting with other nonprofits. So we worked with Soul Forest, Say Trees, Myrada. We actually gave them our tech stack, because our tech stack is not just the drone model, but everything from how a farmer can contact us. So there's a WhatsApp chatbot, there's a digital stack for field team members to use, and then all of that finally connects to the drone model. To ensure that this has buy-in from multiple stakeholders, the tech, we've actually collaborated with researchers at IIT Goa to be able to publish peer-reviewed literature on this, so that carbon standards, etc., can also start accepting this. Yes, I think I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Kritika, and thank you to everyone who's been able to share their rich experiences. Coming back to the circle story, in the central region, growing green cover solutions, we've mapped it as relevance to all the circles. So this solution is relevant in all the 10 circles of the central region, and work has started in 3 of those circles that you can see. So this is where we are at currently. I think we've heard narratives from each of our partners. I'll just hand it over back to Mayuri to take this forward.